Has a man ever tried to manipulate you? I'm sure the chances are you've had that experience at least once. And if you haven't, there's a very good chance you may come across it at some point. The unfortunate reality in life is there are people out there who want to play games. There are people out there, or more specifically, men out there who want to take advantage of you, who are just trying to use you and get what they can out of you. And in doing this, there are a lot of these toxic individuals who have learned how to play the game in a way that gets the results they're looking for. How to have you feeling foolish, feeling used, feeling drained by what they've put you through. All right? And so you've got to start to understand, if you don't have a clear enough picture of it already, how these men move. What are the ways they will try to manipulate you so that you don't fall for the games and the tricks? Now, again, I always feel the need to mention, please do not take this as all men are manipulative. Please understand there are always great, awesome, authentic men out there. But I'm not blind to the reality that there are wolves in sheep's clothing, as well as flat out wolves waiting and just looking to, again, take advantage of you at any chance they can get. So let's go through some of the things you need to be mindful of. And this is in no particular order. The first one on the list I want to mention is that a manipulative man, or a way that a man will try to manipulate you, is by controlling your environment. Now, what I mean more specifically with controlling your environment is controlling the influences in your environment, all right? So toxic men tend to be, if not always, controlling men. One of the reasons why they must have control is because they have to also limit who can get in the way of them being able to manipulate you, or them being able to control you and have you do as they say, of anyone trying to give you clarity and help you break free from their nonsense. So these manipulative men will survey your environment, your friends, your family. What are you paying attention to? What are you watching? And now try to eliminate these things. Some of these men will make issues. For example, let's say you have a good friend, and that good friend is usually calling out his nonsense. And he knows, because maybe in you talking to him, you slip, you let it be known that she said such and such. All right, well, now he's going to put a target on her back and try to cause problems with her so that you will stop talking to her, that you will stop engaging, or he will simply try to not allow you to hang out with friends as much. Now, of course, some of you are saying, who the hell is he to not allow me? But the reality is that many women have found themselves in situations where, yes, they've succumbed to this man ordering them around and putting up restrictions on their life. All right. And so, of course, you shouldn't be allowing that to happen. But if you find yourself in that situation, or if you see that he is attempting to do this, you've got to be aware. Now, here's the thing, and I guess this kind of makes it a little tricky. I do agree with the idea that we have to be mindful of the outside noise we allow into our lives in various aspects of our lives, including our relationships. And we have to be very careful to invite third parties and unhealthy opinions into our life. So there is a responsibility that you have to play that, okay, when I have an issue with this man, with this person I'm in a relationship with, that I try to address and resolve this with him without bringing in all these other people that can make it a lot more difficult. And sometimes that friend of yours is a legit problem. Sometimes they're the one trying to sabotage your relationship, all right? Not trying to put negative things in your head about your friends, but it can happen. It has happened to many women. So you have to be mindful of this. But I think the difference between the manipulative man and the man who is just concerned because you have a legit negative influence is, one, is he only going after that one person? Or is he like this in general, trying to restrict you with who you engage with? All right. Because if he's a genuine guy, he's only concerned about the person who's causing a problem. But the manipulative, controlling guy doesn't want you around anybody. doesn't want you around anyone that he can perceive as a threat, even before they've officially to him become a threat, all right? Or maybe a single friend who he feels like could fill your head up with things that it's going to make it harder for him to control you. So it's an understanding that difference is how you're going to see which one he is, as well as how is he in the other aspects of the relationship. The manipulative man doesn't just stop at trying to control your environment. He takes it much further than that. And we're going to talk about some of the other things that he will probably do. Whereas the genuinely good guy who just has a genuine issue with that one influence, or more than one, is a great partner otherwise, all right, is doing his part. He just has identified that this influence is causing a problem. So you have to look at the overall picture when figuring out which type of man you're dealing with. But yes, manipulative men will try to control your environment, friends, family, where you hang out, all of it. All right, so now the next way a man or men try to manipulate women is by love bombing. All right. Now, if you're not familiar with the word or the term love bombing, I have a video about it that you can check out. But to kind of give a brief overview of it, love bombing is essentially when the man is coming hard and coming fast. No pun intended. And he's trying to shower you with all this love and attention and doing so much. He's basically trying to overwhelm you with this to reel you in, but then he's not gonna keep this up. All right. He's doing this just to get you. And then once he has you, the ball game's going to change. Now, here's the thing that we have to be very careful with this love bombing label, because I've seen situations where two people felt an amazing connection. The love, the interest, the desire, everything was genuine. There was no plan to manipulate. It was coming from a real place. But in that realness, it still came strong. It still was hard. It still was a lot. All right. And so when you're trying to figure out, okay, is this a love bomb or is this real? The question you have to ask yourself is, how do I really feel about him? And what I mean by that is not by what he does for me, about him. Because what happens in the love bombing scenario, and whether we call it that or any other name, a lot of people get attached to what the other person is doing for them. So for example, there's a lot of women who they meet this guy who treats them amazing, right? And it could be love bombing or not, but because of his treatment and his treatment being better than anything she's ever experienced before, she's drawn in and becomes attached or wants to hold on to this guy. But if you sat down and really talked to her and you separated all this fluff that he adds to the relationship, she's not really into him as a person. They don't really connect on a deeper level. They don't actually share the same values. She may not even in some cases be very attracted to him. All right. But he's doing things for her that it's so nice and it feels good to have these things done for you. So you start to confuse that with love on your end. That's not love. So the love bomber is a one-sided affair. It is one individual doing so much, trying to proclaim all this love. But when you dig deep inside of yourself, you're like, I'm enjoying this, but I'm not really into them like that. Whereas when it's a genuine situation, no, you're into them. You're feeling as strongly for them as they feel for you. You may not be expressing it as loudly and as clearly as they are, maybe because you're scared, you have some walls up, you're trying to be cautious, whatever the case may be. And that's a whole nother discussion as to, I don't want you to be that way, but it happens, right? But even though you're not letting it all out, you still feel it from within. And so when you feel that genuine desire, that genuine interest, that genuine love and connection, then we don't have to label him as a love bomber, all right? But yes, manipulative men will try to hit you strong and fast with it to just overwhelm you. And before you know it, you're caught up in a situation that you have a hard time walking away from. All right, so let's keep this moving. And now the next way that men try to manipulate women is with anger, or what I like to call turning the tables on you. All right. And it's usually a combination of the two. So to give an example, and I've seen this story play out many times, woman's in a relationship and she's with this guy and everything seems to be going well. But there's something in her, and I have to say that because in most cases, there is intuition, there's a red flag, there's something in that woman saying something's not right, okay? But for many reasons, the woman tries to look past that, rationalize past it, won't explore it, because she wants to hold on to the relationship for, again, various reasons. Eventually, one day, the phone is left open, the phone that typically is not available to be looked through. The woman gets an inclination or curiosity or whatever, goes through it, finds some stuff. The manipulative man, what happens in this situation is you confront him, and what does he do? Rather than trying to explain, apologize, own up, anything, he flips it on, how dare you go through my phone? You're the problem. I can't trust you. Oh, you see, you don't trust me. Boom, boom, boom. He will completely turn the tables on you. He will deflect the issue and put the spotlight on you. And to up the ante, he will not just flip it on you. He will use the anger. All right? Because the reality is that anger is a very effective intimidation tactic. I don't say effective to make it an okay thing or a good thing. I'm saying effective for a lot of people, it works. When they get mad at their partner, all right, the partner goes into defense mode. And so now, if you're accusing him of doing wrong, he gets mad at you, you lose sight of holding him accountable to what he did, and you get caught up in trying to defend yourself. And the manipulative man knows that. And he knows by the time you guys are ending that conversation, it will be all about you trying to clear your name rather than what he did. And now he won. And now at that point, he's just hoping to get to the next day and y'all just drop the whole situation. Or guilt trip you with the fact that, but yeah, you went through my stuff. Yeah, you don't trust me, whatever, so on and so forth. So it can happen in various ways, but you have to be mindful of that. One thing I always tell people, and specifically I tell you as women, is that be aware in your discussion with this man that you are not losing sight of the topic at hand. Do not get caught up in trying to defend yourself. So basically, if he says, you don't trust me, how dare you go through my phone? Even if you feel bad because you used to tell him you would never do such a thing and that you trust him, right? Then simply say, you know what? You're right. I apologize for going through your phone. It was wrong, but that doesn't change the issue now. So it's like, okay, we can own up to the wrong. Let's diffuse that right there. Because if you get caught up in, well, no, what you would do, see, now you give him ammunition to keep going, to keep pushing, to make the argument all about you. But once you say, okay, it was wrong, you're right, done. But we still have this issue. Now what? He can't keep digging on you about you already owned up to it. It is what it is now. So you got to learn how to, when they flip the tables, you got to flip it right back. Keep it at the topic at hand. And that way you're going to expose, will he own up? Will he address this? What's going to happen here? And what you need to do. Otherwise, you will fall victim and you will find yourself in a never-ending cycle, because once you give in to the anger and the turning of tables, you better believe he's going to use it again. Once a manipulative man sees that a certain tactic works with you, he will continuously implement it until it can no longer work. And then he will pivot and use a different tactic to try to get you back. So don't get caught up in that, in him doing that. All right, so we got a few more to go. And so next up, another way that men try to manipulate women is with good sex. I had to laugh, I'm sorry, but as always, we gotta talk about it. So let me start off by saying this. I remember one time a friend of mine's, I'm kind of ashamed to say it, but he was talking about his sexual experience one time, not in great detail, so I don't want y'all to think that. But he was like, man, I went in there like a man who needed a place to stay. And so it was such a funny statement, but it's so real. The fact that, listen, men who have something to gain here, they need you for something. And that's why they would even manipulate you. It could be a place to stay. It could be money. It could be whatever. You co-signing on a car. Who knows, right? All of a sudden, become great performers in the bedroom. and I've heard plenty of women question, like, why are so many toxic men good in bed? Now, there's a lot to discuss there. I actually did a video on it a long time ago, but the point I want to hone in here on is, here's the thing. Being good in the bedroom, most importantly, there's several factors, but one of the biggest factors, if not the biggest, is the man's willingness to please you. Be patient with you. You know what I'm saying? Be passionate, be sensuous, all these things. One of the reasons why a lot of men are not that good is because they get selfish in the bedroom. They get in their own way. They're more concerned about what they're gonna get. But the man who's trying to manipulate you, especially a man who is desperate for whatever he's trying to gain, like I said, a place to stay, money, whatever, knows he has to make sure you're good. So he comes into that bedroom on his best behavior because he knows this is what's going to work. And as I've said this in another video, where as bad as this sounds, it doesn't even take the man being great to get a lot of women caught up. All right. There are tons of examples and stories of mediocre sex still getting women attached to men for various reasons. So the man who implements this tactic understands if he could just do a pretty good job, yes, that can cause this woman to be more blind to the issues, blind to his manipulation, and allow him to get what he wants out of her. This hit my spirit, so I feel the need to say it. And this is especially true if he senses desperation on your part. All right? Meaning, if you as a woman do not exude confidence about yourself, you become prey to a manipulative man because he feels like he's going to have an easier time getting you to do what he wants. He's going to have an easier time playing you because I always say desperation, though it may not feel like desperation to you, the vibe of desperation is what leads more women to getting played than anything else. All right? Desperate to have a man there, desperate to have companionship, desperate to feel an ounce of what she wants to view as love, or just if it feels something like love, whatever the case may be. Now, I don't want to use desperate in some derogatory way that makes you feel bad if you've been feeling that way. But I want to use that word for you to be aware that if you are crossing that line of desperation, we've got to get out of that, because if you stay there, you are more likely to fall victim to these things. All right. And yes, sex is one of the ways that he will find his way in and stay there, because a lot of people, a lot of women have gotten attached to men because of sex and have allowed that man to stay way longer than he should have. And you have to understand what you can handle and what you can't. And that's why avoiding getting intimate with someone, especially when you don't know what he's about, when it's not a committed relationship, is very, very risky business. It leads to a lot of problems for a lot of women. So you've got to be careful and know yourself well enough. Yes, we can talk about waiting till marriage and all these things from a spiritual perspective, but as I always say, I know many are engaging regardless of that. So we still have to talk about what happens in that context. All right. So sexually is another way men will try to manipulate a woman. All right, so now before I move on to the next one, real quick, people are always asking me about coaching. Well, here is your opportunity to have your questions personally answered by me twice a month on live coaching calls in my special coaching program, Manifest the Man God Has for You. Join today, click the link in the description or in the comment section. Not only are you gonna have your questions answered, but you're gonna learn how to heal. You're gonna learn how to tap into your feminine energy. You're gonna learn how to hear God more clearly, finding your purpose, meeting more relationship-minded, quality men. All of that and more is included. Thousands of women's lives are being changed. Your life can be next. Take advantage. Again, go to receivingmyblessings.com. All right, so next up on the list of ways a man will try to manipulate a woman is by playing on your sympathy, or even playing on your nature to nurture, okay? So a lot of men have played on sympathy as well as guilt trip women with the whole, oh, you know, you're not there for me when I'm down, or you need to be able to build with me, and all these different things, right? And I'm not, again, I never want to make it seem like it's an absolute thing that every man who believes in building together and being there for him even when he's broken, homeless or whatever, is a guy who's simply trying to manipulate you. However, in most cases, it's not coming from a genuine place, all right? Because the man who is genuinely wanting to be with you, genuinely having feelings for you, genuinely in love with you, wants to pour into you. And if anything, when he is incapable of doing that, it will actually cause many to be hesitant to want to move forward, all right? But those who will overlook it, it's because they're desperate to gain what you can provide. And so now, yes, they will use the sympathy of needing your help. And if they just had a good woman and all these things would be so much better. But you got to be careful with that, because it's not your job to make him into a man. It's not that I am so against building with a man, but please understand the difference between building with him and carrying him on your back. All right. An analogy I like to use is it's almost like a man or woman building a house, and the woman's getting the bricks and the cement and all the tools, and she's starting to lay the bricks and build a house. And the dude sitting in a lawn chair drinking some lemonade talking about, you missed the spot. Like, he is not equally engaging in the building. That's not what we're supposed to be doing. Now, if it's a together thing, if we're doing this and mutually putting forth the effort, if he's finding ways to contribute, to compensate for where he cannot contribute, I'm cool with that to a certain extent. I'm cool with that. All right. But you've got to be very careful, because there's a lot of men who are just using women as a stepping stool, as a way to get to the next level. And once they're there, they're gone. They're on to the next. And so you have to be mindful of what's really happening here. Is this a genuine man or not? And again, what will differentiate the genuine man from the user, from the manipulator, is the man who wants to still pour into you in many other ways, still makes an effort, still tries, and also recognizes when he's draining and taking too much from you. All right? That's a man who loves you is not trying to do that. All right? So you just got to be very careful with that. But it's not just playing on your sympathy in that regard, or playing to your desire to nurture. What I feel the need to bring up is also sympathy in the sense of, and this is an example, but let's just use depression. All right? Again, it's an example. We can go many different directions. But there are men, there are people out there who use mental health and the woe is me mentality and creating this gloomy picture to gain your sympathy so that you won't leave them, so that you'll deal with them and all these things. Now, it isn't to say that there aren't genuinely depressed people. But my argument is always, it's one thing to be depressed or whatever issue they're going through. It's another thing to not be doing anything about it. To expect you to deal with them, to suck it up because they're struggling, when they're unwilling to take any steps to improve, to me is unacceptable. Because now you are becoming an enabler to their behavior. You are now saying it's okay to remain depressed. It's okay to remain in this victim mentality. It's okay to do nothing because I should be expected to love you through it and stay here no matter what. I want to say a curse word, but I'm not going to say a curse word right now. All right. But I think you feel my energy. No, I'm sorry. No, that's not how it's supposed to work. And it's one thing to go through a tough moment and a small phase of struggle, but to remain there is not okay. So again, you can be loving, encouraging, supportive, but there has to be action taken. And at the very least, let's just say, okay, he needs a little bit of time. Okay, we can agree to what is your genuine limit? All right, it's like, and again, this is just an example. If you as a woman say, okay, you know what? I can genuinely deal with this for 30 days and still be the best woman I need to be and be happy here. Of course, it may not be as full as happy as I want to be because we have to work through this, but I can deal with this for 30 days and be fine. But after 30 days, you know this is going to very negatively impact you in a way that you can't show up the way that you need to show up. And that you are going to start to have resentment or anger or whatever creep in. Then you've got to be able to say to that man, listen, I can work with you up to this point, but after that, we got to do something. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. He has to understand at some point he has to step it up. He has to work on these things. And there is some kind of solution to at least improve the situation. Now, of course, there may be exceptions that some scenarios are just, I don't know how to explain it, but it's just nothing you can do. Let's say they were in a tragic accident. It's a very different thing. But let's stop acting like that's the norm. Those are very rare exceptions. It's a different story. I understand. Outside of that, no, it's not okay. All right, so we got two more. And this next one, I'm going to run through a little quick because I really want to spend more time on the last one. So the next thing that the man will try to do to manipulate women, to manipulate you, is gaslight you. All right. So again, we're going to make this very fast. Gaslighting, for those of you who don't know, essentially is trying to make you question your own thoughts, your own perceptions, what you're seeing, basically make it seem like you're the crazy one. You didn't see that. That's not what happened. What are you talking about? You're tripping. You know what I'm saying? Like, just completely dismiss you and have you questioning yourself. It's very unhealthy. It's messed up. It's just plain and simple wrong, but it is what a manipulative man will do to you. And so you've got to pay attention to when you got to stand strong in what you do know. It's one thing to be, let's say, accusing him of something that you're not even sure about. All right. And he's telling you, no, you're wrong. You're tripping. Okay. Because if you're not sure, if you don't have some level of certainty within you, there's some wiggle room on his end. But when it's something that you know for a fact, like for example, you know for a fact, you just saw this man with another woman, lip locked, hands all over her, whatever. You know for a fact it was him. You can't let this man tell you, nah, you tripping, that wasn't me. You saw his license plate, you saw his car, you saw so many details that told you this is him. Don't let him tell you that you're crazy and didn't see what you saw. You've got to stand strong in your truth. But not just that, not let people dismiss how you feel. All right? It doesn't mean that how we feel is always accurate to what's going on, but it should not be dismissed. All right? He has to be able to discuss it with you and work through it with you rather than just push it to the side. Now, I will say that dismissal of feelings is not necessarily an automatic manipulative thing because I think some men are very unaware and not in tune with their partner. Some men are processing things only through a logical mind and they're not connecting with where you are emotionally. So it's a lack of emotional intelligence on their part. It's not a blatant trying to manipulate you. But again, this is why we have to always look at the overall picture. The manipulative man has more than just this trait. The genuine good man is good, but he may struggle in this specific area. All right. Of, again, not being dismissal. And you have to talk to him about that. But if he loves you, if he cares about you, you expressing to him clearly that this is a problem will at least get him to start to improve and be mindful in that area. All right. And last but not least, possibly the most important thing on this list that I need you to hear. A big way a man will try to manipulate a woman is by destroying your self-esteem. All right. So remember when I said earlier that desperation it's a magnet to manipulative men. And when you're not exuding a certain level of confidence, these types of men view you as prey, as an easier target. So now what happens is a lot of men who are like this, even if you started off confident, if they see an area they can exploit to destroy your confidence, they will do that. They will do that because they understand that by removing your self-esteem and your confidence, you will become easier to control. You will have a harder time walking away from him. You will be more likely to sacrifice your standards, your values, and all the things that are important to you. So you've got to pay attention to where a man is trying to attack you in that way. Now, there's unfortunately, I don't want to get too deep into it, but there are some men who are taught this as a tactic to basically, and even just not from I want to manipulate this woman standpoint, even as far as just getting the woman. Like, I don't know if some of y'all have ever heard it, but some men will say like the worse you treat her, the more you can keep her. All right. Now, I'm not saying I agree with that whatsoever, but I understand where that mindset comes from. And some of it, to be honest, comes from the fact that men see other men who are trash, who are toxic, who are mistreating you, get to keep the girl. Whereas they see the good guy who's trying to love a woman get burned and get played. And so now they start to equate this to, okay, well, treat her like trash, and you will have her more under the how should I say? You basically have more control over her, or you will have her wanting you more. All right. Again, not gonna get into how that's bad advice, why it's bad advice, and all that. But I am letting you know this mindset exists, whether it's from just a matter of getting you, or again, the manipulative man who understands this strategy is going to make it easier. So when you start to notice that a man is trying to make you less confident instead of more, red flag, big issue. We need to immediately, and again, I always say address it because I want to stay consistent with my message, because I don't believe in just running from a red flag. I believe in addressing it. And if it's not corrected, then we let go of the person or we remove ourselves from the situation. But you address it because, as crazy as it sounds, sometimes it's an unhealthy mindset that can be corrected. Other times it is a blatant attempt to manipulate and control you. And so you should only embrace a man who pours into you in a way that makes you better, that makes you more confident and certain of yourself, or encourages you to do things to build your confidence. That's a man who loves and cares about you. But the man who wants to take that away from you, he's trying to manipulate you. So the unfortunate reality is there's a lot of manipulative men out there, all right? Now, I do not believe, I know that the majority of men are not just manipulative, horrible men. I know some of you may feel like that, but no, there's a lot of good men out there. I do think a lot of the bad experiences people go through are heavily due to the mismatch of those two people, rather than that individual just being inherently this horrible person, okay? But that's a whole nother different discussion. None of that changes the fact that there are men out there that you may come across that are literally out to manipulate you, literally out to use you, take advantage of you. And some women may say, well, Stephan, you need to talk to these men and tell them to stop acting this way. I hear you. I have my channel for men. I encourage healthy behavior. But no matter how many men I talk to and reach, like I can get 5 million men tomorrow to start being extra amazing. That doesn't change that there's billions more out there who you may one day come across who may do things the wrong way. One of them or a few of them, whatever. So you have to focus on what you can control. And what you can control is understanding how these men operate. Understanding the tactics that they use so that you don't fall into the trap of letting them play you and get the best of you. So go into this video saying, okay, by me getting a better understanding of these things, I can navigate through the waters of unhealthy men a lot better. And that way also not get discouraged or caught up in a way that it blocks you from receiving that great man. Okay, so let's get into some of these tactics. And I have a video that names some other ones, but these are more tactics that a manipulative man might use. And so one of the first ones I want to talk about is giving you the silent treatment. Okay, so you have a lot of advice on the internet nowadays that tell men to essentially use silence as a weapon. And let's be real, there are women who have done the same. But we're not going to focus on the women right now. We're focusing on what the men do. And so essentially, whether some refer to, it's just telling men to ignore you, things of that nature, to cause you to then, crave their attention and want the validation and essentially put the power back in their hands, all these different things. Now, I have to acknowledge and let you know that there's some men who are doing that simply due to bad advice being given to them, and they think that's the best way to handle it, even with a woman they actually do care about. I know that sounds crazy, but a lot of men are being led astray in that sense. However, there are the men who are they know the game and how this game works. And so they will use the silence because, let's say, for example, you've been upset with them. This man has not been giving you the attention and the time that you need from him, right? So you hit him up and you're expressing your frustration. You feel like he doesn't give you enough time and all these types of stuff. All right, he hears you out. And then the next few days, he goes silent. And sometimes that tactic is done because it's like, okay, even though it was literally just about giving you more time, by going silent on you, it's like taking the spotlight off of and I know that might sound weird because you're like, well, it's still highlighting the fact that he's not giving you his time and attention, but it makes it now about you, like hoping that he hasn't left you, all right? So it switches it from you holding him accountable to not showing up the way that he needs to, into you being afraid that, oh my gosh, I might have lost this man, so now let me try to get him back or smooth things over, right? Or when you talk to him, you're like, well, why haven't I heard from you? And now he can make, oh, I've been going through some things, and he's completely changing the subject. And because you're so happy, or that woman is just now relieved that she was able to talk to him again and he's back into her life, so to speak, it's like the real issue gets brushed under the rug. So the silent treatment can be used to create anxiety within you, can be used to create fear within you. And all these manipulation tactics that we're going to go through, they tend to then turn the tables. They turn to remove the focus being on him and whatever the specific issue was, and either putting it on you or turning it into something completely different. So now, if you come across a man who engages in that behavior, one, you cannot let the fear of, oh my gosh, did I lose him by trying to hold him accountable to this issue? You can't lose sight of that. Like, so if he finally pops back up, or you reach out to him and now he answers, he doesn't get to dodge that issue. Like, don't make the mistake of just now moving forward because you guys are now talking again. No. Are we going to correct what we talked about before you went ghost or not? And if we're not, if anything, you should actually see his silence as a greater example of why you don't need to be dealing with him. All right? But don't let him trick you into losing sight of whatever you are holding him accountable to. Now, if, for example, because crazy things happen, let's just say there was literally something tragic that occurred. Someone passed away, and so his silence was not a manipulation tactic, but in fairness to you, you're not sure if he's just giving you some story or what the case may be. Then you simply, if you want to give him the benefit of the doubt in that situation, you simply have to lay down the structure of how we're going to handle things moving forward. It's like, all right, cool. You had something happen. You shut down. You didn't know how to handle it. Maybe that's how he tends to handle things. But going forward, if we're going to be in this relationship, I need better communication. I need at least you hitting me up with a text saying, hey, such and such happened. I'm not ready to talk right now. I need a little space, but I want to let you know what's going on. If he can't agree to at least that, there's nothing for you to work with here. Keep it moving. And just accept that this is a man who is either trying to manipulate you, or even if he's not trying to manipulate you, is not healthy enough to be in a good relationship with you. All right, so here's another tactic that a man would use to manipulate a woman, and that's guilt trip you. All right? Guilt is a very powerful thing. It can make people do things they shouldn't do. It can make people remain in a situation they shouldn't remain in. You name it. So let me give you an example of how a manipulative man will use guilt. All right? And this is the extreme example, but it happens. You're with this man. It's not a good situation. And again, whether he's a bad guy or it's just he's not for you, either way, it's not working. And he hits you with, oh my gosh, if you leave me, I'm going to kill myself. And now the fear and the guilt of, I don't want anything bad to happen to this man, I can't walk away. Or it could be, he lives with you. You know you need to get rid of him. But you feel guilty that if I put him out, he'll have nowhere to go. And so now that guilt is keeping you in this relationship and allowing this man to continue to leech off of you and take advantage of you. And all of these men, no matter what kind of example I use, they all know your weakness. They all know that deep inside you have a soft spot and that you're going to have a hard time going through with the action if he hits you with, I don't know what I'm going to do with myself. I'm going to kill myself, all these things. Now, it's not that I want anyone to be dismissive of someone threatening suicide. But I also don't want people to be held hostage by someone who's using that as a manipulation tactic. Now, sometimes, you don't know for sure. And this may sound bad, but there comes a point where that's not your responsibility. If it's going to stop, it's one thing for us to ignore somebody's cry for help, and we just need in that moment to stop and pour into them and show them some love and try to help them out. It's nothing for someone to literally try to keep you, staying in that relationship means this is an ongoing thing where you are unable to do what's best for you. So you pouring into them is not simply an inconvenience of the moment, right? If that's what it would call for you to help them, it's literally you derailing your life. That to me is a line that you can't cross, because then how long are we going to do this? How long are we going to allow this person to use that and hold that over your head? That's not good. It's not healthy at all. So whatever it is, especially the whole putting him out one, because believe it or not, that's definitely more common than the suicide one. And there are so many women right now who are just afraid to let a man go because, he has nowhere else to go. And let me tell you something. A lot of times, one, they do have other options. They just don't like the other options. It's almost like, all right, you have some situations where this man could go back and live with his mother. He just don't want to live with his mother. He'd rather be living with you. So he's going to say, I got nowhere else to go. No, he does. He does. And he'll figure it out once he's out on his behind and he has to make a choice. All right. For some other individuals, it might be what needs to happen for them to get their life together. Some people need to fall flat on their face. Again, no one is saying to put out some man who is good to you and doing his part and pouring into you simply because he doesn't have his life together completely yet. We're talking about a man who is not treating you right, bringing you stress, overburdening you, causing problems, and then wants to use the guilt trip for you to feel bad about putting him out. That's not acceptable. That's not okay. So there's a lot of different scenarios where the guilt can come in, but that guilt trip is definitely a tool some manipulative men will use. All right, so let's keep this going. And another tactic some men will use to manipulate a woman is being very judgmental. All right, so a lot of people do not like to be judged. And fear of other people's opinions can paralyze some individuals. And again, some men understand how powerful that can be and will use that judgment to then control the woman and get her to do the things that he wants her to do. One example that comes to mind that, again, of course, doesn't apply to every man who feels this way, but there's some men who feel like their woman doesn't need to be out nowhere, out with her friends at no club or whatever the case may be. And some of y'all may agree with that. But the point I'm trying to get at is some will take it to the level of, and not just being out, how she dresses when she's not with him, all these different things. And I understand everyone has their line, granted. What I'm telling you is some will use the judgmental nature of, oh, women who go do this are blah, 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 blah. Like, he'll speak down on those women. He will berate those type of women. He will strike fear in you that if you engage in this activity, he will look at you this way. And because you don't want to be looked at in that way, you fear crossing that line. Now, here's the thing. If what he is, again, let's just say how you dress, if you guys are in complete alignment with dressing like that, then this wouldn't matter, right? But if you are now going against what is comfortable for you, what you enjoy, this is a problem because you're allowing this judgmental manipulation to get the best of you. And I think everyone needs to find that person they can be themselves with, right? Not try to accommodate in ways that go against what truly puts a smile on your face, what truly makes you feel comfortable, what truly works for you. And so you have to ask yourself, and I'm sorry to kind of get a little sidetracked here, but it's one of those hitting my spirit moments. So one of the places that judgment has thrown a lot of things off and people being true to who they are and what they like is in the bedroom, okay? And the big problem is, again, if you're not being yourself, whether someone else thinks that you should change that part about you or not, if you're not owning up to what you truly like and what you enjoy, to the point where now these experiences in the bedroom with your partner leave you extremely dissatisfied, that's a problem because your willingness to continuously show up in that bedroom is going to be severely diminished. And that creates a different disconnect in the relationship and it snowballs from there. A lot of people get with a person who will judge and look at them poorly for what their preferences are in intimacy. And that's a problem because not only should we be able to be ourselves in general, but especially in the bedroom too. Now listen, some people are into some wild, kinky stuff. And I'm not saying everyone, again, no one's saying that anyone has to be down with that. I'm saying that if people would Be true to who they are and just recognize, all right, we don't fit because we don't appreciate those parts about ourselves with each other, so to speak. Then we move on. We move on. But you can't let that, well, damn, I don't want him to think badly of me. I don't want him to look at me in this way. But then the whole time you're depriving yourself of what you truly desire. That's an issue. But going back to the main point at hand is that, yeah, there's some men out there who will use that judgmental nature. I feel the need to mention, like, especially, I've heard this a lot in situations where, let's say, a woman is dating a very, quote unquote, churchy man, a pastor, whatever. And again, this doesn't apply to everybody that carries that label. But they feel the household has this man has a very judgmental nature to him, to where it not only stifles her ability to open up, it stifles her ability to open up in so many different ways that then it's almost like living in this box that she is so uncomfortable in and afraid to get out of, because she's, one, afraid to face the wrath of his judgment and afraid of the potential that she will lose the man that she's hoping to hold on to, even though she's not really happy because she can't be herself. So be mindful of that, and don't let someone's perception of things cause you to lose sight of who you truly are. Hey, so before we continue, I want you to take this opportunity to show me your love and support by joining my special messaging group, where I send you messages by video, by text, that are encouraging you, pouring love, positivity, and just good energy into you, so to speak. Join today, only $5. Go to the link in the description or link in the comments section, and part of the proceeds from this program go to my Healing Generations Foundation nonprofit. So it will help me in advancing my vision of providing more coaching and therapy to our communities, and doing a lot more than that, because we're going to have so many programs set up, and I'm very excited about what's on the horizon. So again, click the link in the description or in the comment section. So now, as we move on to the next point, another tactic men will use to manipulate a woman is constantly complain. Okay? So, to some men, nothing you do is good enough. Now, I always say, you'll never be good enough for the wrong person. All right? And that's just the reality of when we are not truly in alignment, when we truly don't fit together, it's not going to hit the way that it needs to hit. It's not going to resonate with them the way that it needs to, because there's a disconnect that exists in that relationship already at the foundation of it. However, there are some men who they're going to use the it's not good enough and the complaining to keep you in a place of inadequacy, to keep you in a place of second guessing yourself, to keep you in a place of trying to gain his validation. So it's almost like, if I keep undercutting and undermining your efforts, but I already know that you desperately want to make this work and you're trying to keep me around, it keeps you fighting to try to do more. I'm trying to do everything to make me happy. And I don't give you that bone, so to speak, that prize of, yes, you did an amazing job. Because no, I'm going to keep that fire under you, that you got to keep trying harder, keep trying harder, keep trying harder. But also, it's because it's going to cause you to feel insecure. And it's so much easier to manipulate and control a person if they're insecure, if they struggle with self-esteem. So I can't make you feel amazing about yourself. Oh no, that's going to boost your confidence. If I'm a man trying to manipulate you, then I'm trying to keep that confidence as low as possible. All right? This is why you'll have some men who will flat out insult their woman, call her all kinds of names, degrade her. Because again, it's like they're trying to destroy your confidence, trying to knock you down a few pegs, because it's going to be so much easier to do what they want to do with you. So you've got to recognize when, and let me say this again, are there some men who are complaining because they have, I was going to say because they have deeper issues within themselves, but hey, if they're manipulating you, they have deeper issues within themselves. So regardless, that's at play. But I guess I'm trying to consider the fact that, again, not everything is done. Not every man who does this is, his mentality is, I'm trying to manipulate her. But there are that do. However, regardless of what his intent is, if you're dealing with a man who you know you're putting your best foot forward and you're trying and nothing is good enough and all he does is complain. See, it's one thing if he can celebrate you but still give you constructive criticism. You have to be open to that. You can't expect for everything to be praised if he's being real with you and saying, okay, I love this, but this could be better. To me, that's healthy. Nothing wrong with that. He's being real, and you have to learn how to receive that constructive criticism the same way I would want him to be able to receive your constructive criticism. But when he can never give you praise, when he can never acknowledge your efforts, that's a problem. There's an issue, and you know you're trying. You got to stop and say, you know what? I'm doing too much for someone that I don't belong with. I need to recognize that there's something off here, and I need to take all this good stuff I'm bringing elsewhere. All right? So it's important, and if you have already fallen into that trap of low self-esteem, lacking in confidence, then one of the things that's going to strengthen you to walk away from that situation, let go of that manipulative man, is addressing and resolving the things that have undermined your confidence. See, a lot of women struggle to let go because on the surface, they know this man is bad. They know he's toxic. They know he's not for her. And you got other people even telling her this. But the problem is she doesn't have the confidence to walk away. So no matter how much she knows it, that's not going to empower her enough to do what she needs to do in many cases. However, if she starts to address the underlying issues that have compromised her confidence, and now she starts to stabilize and get that back on the right track, now she is much more empowered to take the necessary action and walk away from that man. So understand that you've got to address things at the root when you're having a hard time letting go and you know you already see this man is not for you. All right, so got a few more to go. And another tactic a man will use to manipulate a woman is playing the victim. So here's a common scenario that's happened where, let's say, a man is engaging in inappropriate behavior, right? He's been sexting, texting women inappropriate sexual things, flirting with other women, maybe even flat out seeing somebody else, whatever. Always been very private with his phone, right? And let's say one day you as a woman decide you want to go through the phone, right? And now, let me say right now, I am not saying that going through a person's phone without their permission is right or okay. But let's be real, it happens a lot. So woman goes through his phone, sees the inappropriate messages, addresses the man, they get into an argument. And now what the man does, the manipulative man in this situation, is he's not even addressing the inappropriate behavior. He's making it all about, how dare you go through my phone? How could you? You don't trust me. I can't trust you anymore. You violated my privacy. He now has somehow become the victim. And crazy as it seems, it's worked a lot. Meaning, whether it be that kind of scenario or a different one, plenty of men have, again, turned the tables by making it about what you did in reaction to their initial violation and inappropriate action. All right? And the woman, losing sight of what this is really about, why this even started, gets caught up in the battle of defending herself for having gone through his phone. Now, here's the thing. Again, because I'm acknowledging that it's not right for us to be just going through people's phones, right? You can acknowledge that you did not handle it correctly while still holding them accountable for what they did to begin with. The problem for so many women in this scenario is that they get so lost in defending themselves. And even in some situations, because depending on how skilled the manipulator is, he goes beyond just attacking you now and playing the victim for invading his privacy. He takes it up a notch and says, you know what, I don't even know if I want to be in this relationship anymore. I'm done. So now, not only is the woman trying to defend her action, right, or apologize for it, she's now in a panic because even though she confronted him about the inappropriate behavior, she actually was not prepared to leave this man. So him threatening to leave and no longer wanting to be there has her in a frenzy. And now she's just trying to cool things over so that she doesn't lose her partner. And before you know it, the real issue is swept under the rug. And she may bring it up later. They may have another argument to some degree, but it's not like she leaves him. It's not like she holds him to account or there's any level of real punishment there. At the end of the day, he has successfully turned the tables on that woman. So you have to make sure, listen, again, the key whenever you are addressing someone and they're now trying to play the victim is you can acknowledge whatever it is they feel like they are the victim for and still bring it right back to, but this is the problem. So it's like, okay, you're right. I was wrong for going through your phone. That was not the right way to handle things. I acknowledge that. Now let's get back to the fact that who the hell you been texting? like you got to swing it right back. You have to be very mindful of not letting them continuously move the goalpost, so to speak. And if they are unwilling to address the issue, then that tells you right there, like, what are we doing here? If they can't own up to it, like, again, I'm not going to get too deep into this. I'm just going to say, if they can't even acknowledge it, apologize, anything, what are we doing? What are we doing? Because it is, to me, without even that, because we could always make the argument, well, just because he apologizes or acknowledges doesn't mean he's going to start acting right or won't do it again. Okay, true. But if he doesn't even apologize and acknowledge, then we know there's no way that this is going to get better, right? One way there's a chance it gets better. The other way, we know it doesn't get better. So that has to at least be there at the foundation. And if he can't give you that, what are we doing here? But don't fall into the trap of now you have to defend yourself all the time and you're forgetting what he actually did to start this whole mess. All right, so we're almost close to the end. And another tactic a man may use to manipulate a woman is jealousy. All right? So a lot of men who are manipulators understand how there are a lot of women who get caught up in competing with other women. And by knowing this, we'll use that as a way to get you to do what he wants or to fight harder for him or whatever the case may be. So whether that be comparing you to other women, like bring it up to you, if you were more like boom, 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 or this one used to do this for me, boom, boom, boom. Now, I acknowledge there's some couples who literally joke like that with each other, and that's a different story. But there are some who are using this to purposely make you mad, rile you up, and get you to act a certain way. And so whether that be even literally flirting with other women, engaging with other women, you have some situations where, let's say a man is seeing two women at the same time, and it gets to a point where now they're fighting each other. They'll let these two women fight. Because I've seen it so many times where there are women who they're so consumed by the fight with the other woman, the idea of I cannot lose out to her, that even though they know this man is no good, not for them, and they weren't even really truly happy with him, they will do everything in their power to keep him because in their mind, I have to beat her. And him, being the manipulative man that he is, he knows that. He recognizes that. And he will allow that other woman to linger to essentially keep you in line, keep you motivated to keep doing more and work harder. All right? And you as a woman have to recognize, and I know some of y'all are like, that could never be me. I hear you, but there's others that are listening right now, and it was you or it is you right now. And this is no judgment zone. I just want you to be encouraged and to understand you got to snap out of it. And you got to recognize that, one, it ain't worth fighting with no woman over no man when he ain't even good. Number one, if you have to even fight with some other woman, how good is this man really? Because if this man loved you and was really a good man, he would not just allow you to have to battle with some other woman. He would step in and kill the situation and identify, no, you are my woman, you are number one, and the story. If he can't give you that, he gonna sit back and let y'all have at it, that's a problem. That is manipulation. That is someone who's not serious about either woman involved in that situation. Or in some scenarios, is too weak of a man. I was trying not to use the word weak, but it's just real. Too weak of a man to understand how he needs to step up and put an end to the nonsense. Which to me says you ain't ready for a real relationship if you can't find it within you to handle this situation the way that it needs to be. There's something that you need to face, but that's a whole different discussion. The point is here, you can't get caught up in that. And if you start to notice your partner is using jealousy as a tactic in a very not the joking way, but an unhealthy way or a way that is affecting you in a negative manner, you've got to make that clear to them. But you don't like that, you don't appreciate that, that's a problem for you. If he cannot honor and respect that, that shows you even more how much of a manipulator he actually is. Because if he's serious about you and he loves you, he won't continue to do things that make you extremely uncomfortable or causes you to lose confidence in the relationship. All right, and last but not least, another tactic a man would use to manipulate a woman is using God. Now, I'm not going to make this one long, I'm going to keep it short and sweet. There are some of you who have experienced, or maybe you've heard about it, a man coming to a woman saying, well, God said you're supposed to be my wife. Now, let the record be known, there are women who have said that in reverse to a man. All right, I know this 100%. But either way, man says that. And listen, sometimes that man is genuinely telling the truth. That's what he heard, or that's what he at least genuinely believes he heard. But there are men who use that because they know it can lure a woman into embracing being with them and allowing them to take advantage of that woman. And it's not just, well, God told me you're my wife. It could just be presenting himself as this very God-fearing man and things of that nature because he knows that's what you want to see. And what I feel the need to say right now is like, you know how the scripture says, judge someone by the fruit of their spirit. I believe the mistake that many people make is thinking that you can analyze the fruit by what you see on the surface. But the real fruit is the intent of the actions that come out on the surface. Meaning, a man could do all these sweet, nice things for you. But if his intention is manipulation, then what you see on the surface is not going to tell you what's truly going on with him. And so for me, you can only really know the spirit by the spirit. And that's why you have to not get caught up in what's always being presented to you. And you have to make sure you talk to God about it. Let God tell you, is this really what it is? Is this man genuine? Or is there something else behind what he is doing, saying, and showing you? That's the only way to truly guard yourself against the men who are manipulative and not truly best for you, so that you can remain available for the man who is truly trying to love you. Hey, thank you for watching this video. Be sure to check this one out right here, and I'll see you there. So, I always get different topics thrown at me, and questions that I ask. And one of the discussions that I've come across recently is this idea that a man needs to